Before we bought this farm that we just bought, my plan was, so we grew up going to deer camp in Southeast Ohio. We lost the camp that we grew up going to just because a family member passed away, it got sold out. And that's actually a long story, but that's the one we just bought back here a month ago. Yeah. So actually this gun season coming up is our first one back there since like 2018 or something like that. So it's cool. When we lost that, I told my wife, I'm like, I grew up going to deer camp in Southeast Ohio. My boys need to go up going to deer camp in Southeast Ohio. And we have a couple leases down there. So we've rented Airbnbs and stuff to get back to that. But basically my long-term goal with this was start small and just work our way up in acreage up until we have the deer camp or deer woods that we want. I know you can make probably more money holding on to it through, just through the market doing better and it gaining value over the years. But the small ones, I feel like you're not going to gain as much big movement on it, but you can sell them a little bit easier and quicker. So it's basically just keep working our way up to, get the bigger pieces that we wanted.
All right, Josh, welcome to the Land Podcast. How you doing today?
Good. How are you, Jake?
I'm doing great. I'm back in the swing of things. I've been hunting a bunch, but I'm excited to hop on and do this episode here. You had reached out and kind of gave a quick synopsis of your land journey and where you're at and what you've been doing. So I'm really excited to dive into everything. So I think it's gonna be a really awesome episode that's relatable for everyone.
Yeah, I hope so.
But before we get into all of that, just give us a Cliff Notes version of who you are and what got you into the land game.
Yeah. So, I'm Josh. I'm 34 years old. I'm a husband, father of three. I got 2 boys and a girl. They're 10, 7, and 3. So our house is chaos 24/7. It's pretty much the way it is. I'm a fireman full time for my day job. I got a couple part-time jobs. I do a fishing charter business, help teach at a fire academy. But lifelong hunter, grew up here in North Central Ohio, hunted around here all my life. And then we grew up going to deer camp down in Southeast Ohio. Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm familiar with. Land's a little bit cheaper down there. So when I started looking to get into purchasing property, that's where I started. And that's where I've been trying to kind of hone in down there. There's a drastic difference between where I live up here in North Central Ohio, price-wise, versus, down there in Southeast Ohio. So, and the hills and mountains down there make it just way better hunting. Where I live is just flat, all agricultural land, probably like what you hunt. Mm-hmm. Whereas down there, you get the big woods, open hills that I like hunting a lot more.
Do you think the age structure for someone that wants to hunt mature bucks, do you think Southeast Ohio is much better than where you live, or is it similar?
I think we get really good deer on camera everywhere. Access wise to big deer, I think you have better chances down there because you have more public land. Up here, we have zero public land. We have very small wood lots. An average wood lot around here is 5 to 15, 20 acres. Yeah. And you'll have a 100-acre ag field next to it. So age structure is, I think, about the same. Mm-hmm. I would say it's maybe a little bit easier up here to kill one, but you have to have access to them. They're very panorable up here versus in the mountains, and in the hills, they're not. But down there you can go and you have access, thousands of public land acres that, have really good deer on them.
Yeah, no, that makes, I'm always curious because sometimes I feel like terrain helps get deer just a little bit older versus flat ground. But that makes total sense. So you're 34, you got 2 different jobs, you live a pretty hectic life from the sounds of it. But when did you buy your first piece down in Southern Ohio?
Yep. So we bought our first piece, I guess it would have been about a year and a half ago now. Mm-hmm. Before that, I started listening to your podcast. Man, it's probably been 3 years ago, I think.
Oh, wow.
It's been a little bit since the early days. And actually we have 7 acres here that we live on, and I got an equip program and stuff set up through that strictly just from listening to you. But, I think we bought our first piece down there about a year and a half ago. And actually, we bought one since then, and we're getting ready to close on another one. I actually just set the closing date a couple weeks ago, or just a couple hours ago.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's exactly. Yep. Things are moving. So you bought a piece about a year and a half ago. And how long were you window shopping? How long were you ready to buy?
I've been window shopping for probably about 10 years now. So we grew up going to deer camp down there, and it was always one of those things where my dad's like, when I retire, I'm going to get money. We're going to buy a farm down there. And that's the farm one of the ones that we just bought actually. But I would say seriously, I started window shopping like probably about 3 years ago, like when I started listening to you, and I'm like, all right, if these guys are doing it, it is possible. And then I started really getting serious, looking at like how we could get with the down payment, how we could, swing things and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, that's really cool that the Land Podcast played a small piece in your journey here. So, you were window shopping for a while, and then the rubber kind of starts to meet the road, and then uh,
Yep.
before you got under contract on the first piece that you bought, how many did you look at, or how many really caught your attention before
Yeah. So
signing on the
the
dotted line?
the the cool thing with Onyx is like, man, you can look through so many properties and get a really big, is it worth it? Is it not worth it to go look at it? Because I live about 3 hours from like the counties that I target, and I know like you talk about like it's pretty tough to get down there.
Hmm.
And so I looked at two other ones, and we were pretty serious about one, and it never actually worked out. And then this one we found shortly after. So I would say we looked at probably two or three that we walked,
Hmm.
and I looked at I would say 15 to 20 or so on Onyx that I'm like, has potential, but then just for whatever reason,
Hmm.
I didn't end up going to walk them or anything like that.
So the one that you were seriously considering, you said didn't work out. What made it not work out? Whether it was a price, was it once you walked it, it was stuff you didn't like?
Yeah, it was more of just the way it's set up. So actually, the price was really good. It was 20 acres, and it was like $2,500 an acre. But it was all hillside. There was really no good. You had to cross a creek to get to it. So to put like a cabin or something on it, you're gonna have to do some major improvements. It was already logged, which I'm not a big. To me, logging doesn't bother me, but I know a lot of people it does. But I know what it does for the habitat and like the hunting and stuff like that. But it was more so just the resellability of what I would have to put into it to get it up to resell. It didn't seem like it was going to be. It was more acreage, but it wasn't more beneficial acreage, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And so, uh, let's talk about your first piece you bought. Then I want to hear all about it. And,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
do you still own this today, or did you end up selling it?
No, we sold it. We flipped it in like 3 or 4 months or something. It was pretty quick.
Okay, yeah, let's talk all about it. Talk all about
Yeah.
it.
Yep. Yeah. So I guess we'll start with the first time or the first way that we kind of got into it was we actually went on a vacation. We were listening to your podcast with my wife in the truck with me. And I kind of got her on board just through that. I'm like, listen to all these people, they're doing it, they're doing it, they're doing it. The thing is like, even with, my 2 or 3 extra jobs, if you don't make that big lump sum of money, it's hard to carry on to the next piece. So I told her, I'm like, we got to start small, get in the game, get a lump sum of money to carry over to the next down payment or whatever that may be.
Mhm.
So what we ended up doing was using a home equity line. And that made us have a hard number of money that we could use for cash outright with a payment that we knew that we could afford.
Mhm.
So that's what we did on that one. So by finding it, I look at Realtor and like Zillow and LandWatch I probably multiple times a day, to be honest with you. But the one I found was on Realtor.com, and it was just an on the market listing. But what it was an investment company from out west somewhere. Looking from the auditor's website, it looks like they bought it from a parcel split, and so they split one side of the road from the other side of the road.
Okay.
And the piece that I bought, it was only 8 acres. It was like 8.5 acres. But the listing was terrible. It was I don't even know, like it was a local agent, but the only picture of it was a Google Maps picture that showed an overhead view with the boundary lines that showed it was 8 acres. And that was the only picture.
Mm.
But then I got on Onyx, and so I started looking at the way it laid. There was like an acre of open flat ground, which you don't get a lot of down there in Southeast Ohio. And I was like, man, this could be, actually worth looking at. And so that's when I kind of got the ball rolling, getting more serious into looking at that one.
Mm-hmm. So you found it. You're like, okay, this is a potential that it's maybe underpriced or not marketed to the highest potential of the farm. So you go
Yep.
down there, take a look
Yep.
at it. What kind of walk us through that process there too? Did you already had the HELOC already lined up? So you're like, okay, we
Yeah.
got
Yep.
dry
Yeah.
powder, ready to buy whenever we find something.
Yep. Yeah. So the HELOC was approved. And it was, so we approved it for 50,000. We have a lot more equity than that, but it was just like, we want to start small, that's what our number is, and we'll go from there. And the other thing about that property was it was listed but they already did a price cut on it like within 2 weeks of it being listed. So I was like, all right, well, they probably want to get rid of this. So yeah, I drove down there, and it's a gravel road, which a lot of that is, that, like I said, doesn't bother me. Um, and from Onyx, you could see they had an open area. I didn't know if it was like cattle pasture, if it was like thick, grown over autumn olives, or what. I just knew it wasn't timber. But when I got there, it was actually like really open. It just needed some like light brush hogging. Basically, was it. There was no autumn olive, no greenbrier, none of the stuff that you'd expect to see in there. Which I was like, wow, this is awesome. There was a power right away that went through it that I thought would have been good for like putting in a food plot or something if we wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was access on two sides, which was really nice. And then timber was good. It was just nice average timber. It wasn't anything that like you were going to timber for value, but it just made it look nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a little creek running through it. So yeah, but just from the road, it set up really well. And the utilities were at the road. There was public water at the road, which is big down there. And then there was electric. There's electric pole on the property too. So
is this a really great potential building site for someone, like with all those things
yeah.
considered?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to buy it for a strictly hunting piece, but for somebody, like I live here on 7 acres. My house is in the front. We can hunt out back a little bit. It was close to public land down there, so that was the other big thing. You could use it as a base camp, still have a little piece to hunt. Yeah, and then just laid out really well, for whatever options you wanted to do for it.
Yeah, and so this was listed. Anyone could have bought it. You bought it.
Yep.
Did you? I'm just curious. If they did a reduction, it probably shows. They did a reduction in 2 weeks, shows that they're probably pretty motivated to move
Yep.
on. What was the negotiation process like, or were you like, "Hey, let's just get this thing bought"?
Yeah. So, I know I've heard you talk about a ton, like, don't look at what they bought it for, but everybody, like, you got to look at what they bought it for, right?
You got to.
Yeah.
Get it?
Yep. So they got it for a really, really good price. I will say that. They were originally asking, yeah, I'm trying to think, 55 or 65,000. I want to say they price cut it. Maybe they were asking 65. They price cut it down to 55. I want to say, or give or take a little bit. So our initial offer was right at 40,000. I want to say, and they countered back to 45, and I think we ended up settling on 42.5.
Okay.
And that was all within about 2 to 3 days. Like it took them a little bit to respond. But yeah, we basically told them we're a cash buyer, no inspections, no anything like that. We're ready to roll pretty much immediately.
And so when you were buying that process or buying that piece, you had mentioned what wouldn't be something you'd necessarily strictly buy for hunting. What was kind of your business plan for this piece? Because obviously it was a springboard or a stepping stone.
Yep.
For what was your game plan going into it?
Yeah, so my game plan was literally just I did put a camera up on it, and honestly, like, and we can get into it more, maybe even a different episode or something. But those small pieces like that, if you find the right layout and stuff, like I put a camera up on that one, and without even putting like corn anything out, like we had really good natural deer movement where I could have felt like I could have hunted that this deer season prior to EHD killing all our deer, and probably like, I'm not saying killed a really good buck, but at least had been in the game of deer hunting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my goal on that was just basically like, let's fix it up where if somebody wants to put like a camp on it, make it a camp to hunt the public land in the area, have a little bit, even just to go take your kids and wives down to, let them roam the woods, let them play in the creek, shoot your guns, barbecue, have a fire, stuff like that. And then, if somebody wants to choose a deer hunt it, hey, there is some deer on it. With a little bit of work, I think there could have been even more deer on it. That type of deal. Just kind of make it appealing to everybody.
What work did you do on that farm other than hang a camera? Did you do anything much to it?
So my original plan, I put a camera up. My original plan was gate, gravel, a parking area. And I was actually going to plant like some spruce trees to block off the woods from the open area, just to give it like that seclusion type deal. And then we were going to put like a fence around the open area. It had an old barbed wire fence, just kind of fix it up, just to kind of give it a little bit better protection. But the only thing that we ended up doing was putting a gate and the gravel in, and basically put it back on the market. And we got it sold.
So yeah, let's talk about that process. So what motivated you to, relist it so quickly?
So I wanted, before we bought this farm that we just bought, my plan was, so we grew up going to deer camp in Southeast Ohio. We lost the camp that we grew up going to just because a family member passed away, it got sold out. And that's actually long story, but that's the one we just bought back here about a month ago. Yeah, that could be a whole nother debacle in itself, but we bought it back. So actually this gun season coming up is our first one back there since like 2018 or something like that. So it's cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. But when we lost that, I told my wife, I'm like, I grew up going to deer camp in Southeast Ohio. My boys need to go up going to deer camp in Southeast Ohio. We have a couple leases down there, so we've rented Airbnbs and stuff to get back to that. But basically, my long-term goal with this was start small and just work our way up in acreage up until we have the deer camp or deer woods that we want. Mm-hmm. And like I know you can make probably more money holding on to it through just through the market doing better and it gaining value over the years. But the small ones, I feel like you're not going to gain as much big movement on it, but you can sell them a little bit easier and quicker. So it's basically just keep working our way up to, get the bigger pieces that we wanted.
If you want to know where property boundaries are for public or private, you want to develop a great plan for your farm, document perfect access to a blind, to a tree stand, carve out and measure food plots, connect your Moultrie trail cameras to an app that shows exactly where they're at, and you can look at the feed for that specific camera location, then Onyx is something you need to check out. It is the only mapping software I use when it comes to deer hunting. I've tried other pieces of software, different apps, and I always go back to Onyx because I think it is the most comprehensive, easy to use, and robust mapping software there is when it comes to hunting and land ownership. You want to send a pen to a friend, boom, send it to them right to text, opens it up. Maybe you have notes, maybe you have pictures on that pin, transfers all of it. You want to send a whole entire folder of a plan that you mocked up, you can do that on Onyx. So be sure to check out Onyx. They are a huge supporter of the Land Podcast. They allow us to travel around and talk to some folks that can give you really good insight and good information no matter where you're at in your process of buying land. Let's get back to the conversation.
Yeah. And so if you want to talk numbers, I'm sure everyone's wondering, you bought it for $250, put a little bit of money into it, a little bit of time. What did you end up reselling it, and how long did it take to get sold?
Yep. So like I said, we bought it in I think it was February. And I know by the time it was all said and done, we had right at 50 into it because we pretty much used like every dollar of that home equity fund. But there again, like that's what it was used. That's what it was planned for. Zero money out of our pocket that we pay our bills with. So that was the nice thing about it. Mm-hmm. And we listed it in, I want to say May timeframe, because that was the other thing. We went down there turkey hunting and the dogwoods were blooming, and that open pasture area just made it look awesome. Like nice white trees. I brush hogged it down real quick, so it was like nice and clean. So we had 50 into it. I think we originally listed it for 79, right at there. It sat for about 3 weeks. We got a little bit of movement on it, not a whole lot. We dropped it down to 72, and that one, and then we ended up selling it. I want to say we closed final paperwork in June, and it was at like 68.9 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So right about maybe 65, I think. By the time it was all said and done, after we paid commission fees and stuff like that, I think we ended up with 65.
Okay, so you made coin on that.
Yep.
And what did your wife say? She's like, "Hey, you did it."
Well, yeah. It was kind of one of those things where, was this too good to be true? Was this a fluke? To be determined, as we get more into this, but it does show that it's possible. You know what I mean? So obviously it makes the next one a little bit easier to justify to her, just going forward like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you had a good game plan. You were shopping, you were looking, you saw the, I don't want to say hidden value, but you saw the price and use and potential of the piece, and you go in there and, listed it at a good time of the year, and, it all worked out. So when you sold that piece, did you already have one already lined up for the next one, or were you kind of shopping for a little bit?
No, just shopping. I bought, while I was looking at that one, so the realtor that I used, he's a realtor that works in that area. As soon as he told me, as soon as we got this one sold, he goes, I might have one for you. It's a small property, but it's got a lot of timber value on it. If it's one that you're interested in, it had to go excuse me, had to go through some title work and stuff like that. And that's the one we're actually just getting ready to close on. But there was a few other ones that I went and like just kind of window shopped online. I did walk a few of them, I should say. I did walk 2 or 3 of them, I think, because I thought they were going to be better than they were. When I walked them, they weren't anything that I thought was worth it. And then we kind of got wrapped up in buying our home deer farm back. So that kind of put a damper on it for a second. But yeah, then the realtor actually turned me on to this one that we're buying now. It was through he had it for sale. He had it sold actually, and then they found some issues with the title work, so they all backed out. And it just so happened whenever I sold this one, the title work was almost complete, and they were getting ready to put it back on the market again. So we kind of bought it, not off market, but still, it wasn't listed yet, but it was through the realtor. Yeah,
for sure. And so, how'd you feel about that deal? So, I mean, like, you have one deal under your belt here. You're ready for the next one.
Yep.
Kind of, and obviously you haven't quite bought it yet. So this is still
right.
Well, kind of what's the game plan for this one with one under your belt already?
Yep. So this one, I don't know if you remember, but I actually called you, Jake. I guess it was about 6-8 months ago. I was looking at a 16-acre clear-cut property.
Okay.
And then this property that has the timber on it, but the access for a deer hunter's from the bottom, which isn't great.
I remember the conversation. Yeah.
Yep. So I went and walked that clear-cut, and let me tell you, I like hunting thick stuff, but this was unhuntable. It was so thick. There was just no good. Mm-hmm. Without, just a ton of work. So I passed on that one and wanted to keep in the game. This property was still available. So I feel pretty confident on it. We're going to timber it. We're going to get the money out of the timber on it. And then I'm honestly I have a game plan on what I'm doing to fix up to it. And I'm hoping to kind of just basically sell the property for what we got into it. And then basically the money for us is going to be hopefully in the timber of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's, and then basically how big is this property again?
Yep. So this one's 12 acres.
Okay.
So still not too big. But I think timbering is going to help it. It's got really nice timber on it. The problem is it's super mature timber. The forest floor is wide open. Mm-hmm. So I think getting that timber out of there is going to be good for the forest floor. And there's a really nice bench in there that's like 50 yards wide and pretty much goes around this whole cut back into this deep draw. Mm-hmm. And so I actually worked out with the logger. He's going to clear cut that bench for me, and we're going to make that in like a food plot, put a blind up on it. And I think that should, along with opening up that canopy, getting some undercover in there, I think it should make it a pretty good property for only being 12 acres to hunt.
Yeah.
Or at least appeal to
it's affordable.
Some more people.
Yeah, it's affordable. Yeah. And like everyone, like I think that makes a lot of sense. How this is like the elephant in the room here. How concerned are you with Southeast Ohio from an EHD perspective, where someone's like, I don't even want to go hunt the public ground down there because they all got smoked? But I mean, I talk to a bunch of people every week, but one of them has an Ohio tag, and they're going to Southeast Ohio. And I said, why are you still going down there? And like, tradition.
Right. Yeah. Listen, our farm's in one of the worst hit counties. They just lowered our deer population, or they just lowered our tag limit to 1 tag. Mm-hmm. We're still going down there to deer hunt. You know what I mean? So it's just, it's tradition. I'm a little nervous about it. I'm a little nervous on that. And we're going to timber it. You know what I mean? So if somebody's coming from Columbus to look at it, they're going to see cut timber. So do I think that it may deter some buyers? Yeah, maybe. The EHD thing, you can't, Mother Nature is going to do what Mother Nature is going to do. And this is kind of, I've talked to a couple of friends about this. If you're not going to buy a property because you're worried about an EHD year, you're probably not going to buy property ever. You know what I mean? Because, all right, this year we had a bad EHD year. Next year the rates go up. The year after that, EHD hits again. You know what I mean? So you can only play the what if game for so long. Is it going to maybe stop people from buying down there? Yeah, maybe. But at the end of the day, if you're looking for property to hunt on, or even just get your family out on, I hopefully you don't let EHD bother you, because there's a lot more that you can do with those properties besides just deer hunt. that's what I hope people, kind of look at. My kids go with me and walk them. There's a lot of stuff that you can do to get enjoyment out of it besides just shoot a deer on them.
Yeah. No, I think that's a pretty good outlook. I mean, myself included, get so tunnel vision on deer.
Yeah. I'm 100%. Yeah. It's terrible.
But you're like, yeah, there's a lot of other intrinsic value that is associated with land. Obviously, deer hunting is probably the biggest driver out of the whole pot, but there's definitely other things that that could definitely be the case. Now, kind of looping back here a little bit, when did you realize, like, hey, I can actually do this? Like, we have a lot of credit, and we're just going to do it. Because I feel like so many people are stuck from the thought to actually doing it. And like, what was the catalyst that made you actually do it?
Yeah. So just, so we built our house in 2019. I guess I'll give a very short clip note version on how we got there. So I moved out early. We bought a house. Me and my wife did in like 2013. We were just married, bought a house. We lived there up until 2019. And we found the 7 acres that we live on for sale by owner, actually just driving a back road. There was an old for sale sign. But we basically used the equity from the house that we were living in to buy the land that we built on. When we went to build, we used the sale of our home that we lived in to pay off our property plus build our house. And in doing that, we never spent a dime out of our own pocket. We just used equity from A to B to C. And I was like, and I even asked our loan officer, I'm like, is this legal? Because I don't want to go to jail over this. He goes, oh no, this is why you buy a house. This is why you pay your mortgage. You're doing it all the right way. I'm like, all right. So then, obviously COVID happened, land rates went insanely high. And land up here where I live in North Central Ohio is double, triple, quadruple the price of Southeast Ohio. And so I told my wife, I'm like, we probably have a lot of equity in our home. If we can swing the payment, I think this is something we should really look into. Like, we got to start making big jumps. Me working 2-3 side jobs, we're not getting the money that we need to get the down payment. And so that's why I'm like, look, the home equity line ended up being like $300 a month that we paid. And I only paid on it for, I think, 3 or 4 payments or something like that. So it's like, we can scratch up $300 a month. And then that's when it kind of is like, all right, push comes to shove. This is only 50,000. This is the property. Worst comes to worst. We fail at it. We lose, we come out break even, and, we don't do it again. But luckily, luckily it worked out for us on that one.
Yeah. There's that. Yeah. And that's the snowball effect. So like, even how you got, built your house, like that's a snowball effect. That
Exactly.
And now you're the land snowball too, which, maybe it starts with the snowflake, or maybe it starts with the big old snowman.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter. Exactly. Whatever it is.
No.
Gotta get going. Yeah. And so I think, sometimes I think this, so I'm guilty of this. Like, the small properties, I'm always like, yeah, there's, the margins are just, quite a bit more narrow. But from your approach, which makes total sense, like, yeah, but there's way more buyers versus a $1 million farm, $5 million farm, like in an astronomical amount of money, where realistically, 2% of the population can buy something like that. Weird echo chambers, and the internet makes everything seem differently. But so like, I guess your game plan. So like, you're building up the snowball to hopefully get, long-term deer camp, or like the deer farm. How many snowballs, or how many transactions do you think it might take to get there?
I don't know, to be honest with you. Hopefully this farm that we bought down there, we can add on to down the road. And we can use the value of that to, the value of the farm that we bought to add on to it. It's not even like I have a set number of acreage that I want. I just want to add on to what we got. So now that we got our, we are deer camp back. I don't know what the snowball effect is. It's basically just, I'm just going to keep rolling with it. I like doing it. I like looking at the land. I like kind of seeing if what I have in my mind and the improvements that I do, if it works out on the back end like I think it should. So I don't really know what the end game is. I just know that I like doing it. And as long as there's some property out there that I think I can do it on, I'm going to keep doing it. And then hopefully, it turns into me either owning some small pieces that, we can bounce around on, or wrapping it up into a bigger chunk down the road, where we're at now. So
how important is it to have a side gig? Obviously you got a couple of them, but how important is
yeah,
a gig to, knowing the goals that you have to achieve them?
I think you have to, as a husband, the provider of my family, my wife just started working again part-time. I would never sacrifice my kids' wants or needs, for me to go chase this land dream that I have. You know what I mean? And the other problem is deer hunting is a stupid expensive hobby. The leases that I have aren't cheap. Just everything is not cheap. So, those side gigs help pay for all those, the leases, everything like that. So it's, I don't want to say it's a necessity, because there's guys that have really good, strong single incomes, just from their main job, that can do it. But I think for the average worker, blue collar, 60 to 100 grand a year, I think you almost have to, especially in today's market, with family and kids and stuff like that. It's so hard to scratch out your day-to-day stuff, just off your regular salary. You know what I mean? And I can speak to 100% just looking at my bills and the kids and everything like that. It adds up so quick.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of I feel like it's crazy. It's like, it's kind of nuts that we all have this desire to deer hunt so bad that it's like, all right, one job's not enough. If I want to do what I want to do, I got at least that too.
Yeah.
But I think that is boast how much, everyone enjoys deer hunting and like the I don't even want to really say sacrifice, but I guess just the pure motivation that can be associated with that. How much are you guys a budget family? Because I feel like you sound like kind of like a budget family from the perspective of like multiple jobs and like or maybe you don't. I'm just curious.
We don't. I shouldn't say this. We have a very loose budget. My wife is way better about it than I am. All the bills get paid, and we have some money left over, but we don't have like a strict, all right, this bill is XYZ every month. We have 38 cents left from that one to move on to the next one. It's kind of more of just, all right, well, at the end of the month, this month we did pretty good. All right, let's see what next month brings, type deal. So that's kind of how we are.
Yeah, no, that's that. I think a lot of people are like that, and during deer season, I'm like that too, because I don't even. I'm just trying to get through the all the responsibilities. But talk a little bit about. Has anyone thought you've been crazy? Like when they're like, Josh, what are you doing buying Southeast Ohio? Like, or like, has had that conversation? Maybe it's at the firehouse. I don't know.
Not definitely at the firehouse, because firemen, we all have a really good schedule that we all fill up with way more jobs than we need to, but we all scheme up ways to make money. So they all are okay with it. You know what I mean? Because it's just a different thing that a fireman does. You know what I mean? But honestly, like all the guys that I hang out with, all deer hunt. You know what I mean? So to me, like my group of guys, they all think it's cool. They all think it's sweet. That we did the first one, we made money on it. Obviously the biggest hurdle was, I think, just getting my wife on board to be like, all right, it's doable. All right, we're not going to go bankrupt. We're not going to lose our house. We're not going to, make our kids starve type deal. But yeah, other than that, it's been pretty easy going.
Yeah. What's do you feel like you've made any mistake up to this point, or anything that you wish you could have done differently?
I mean, honestly, everybody says just getting in it sooner, but honestly, I don't think we could have gotten it sooner. Just where we were at with jobs, kids, just everything. Up to this point, I wouldn't say like something drastically sticks out in my mind. There again, we're slowly into it. I guess, okay, so one thing that we did, this family farm that I keep going back to, we lost it in 2000, like I said, 18 or 19. And we had a chance to buy this. I'll put it this way. We just bought it back. We just closed on it about 2 months ago for 3 times the price we could have bought it at in 2019 or 20.
Whoa.
So, in 2020 or 19, whenever we lost that, we just moved into our house. It was just a crazy, chaotic time. Me and my dad didn't have like the hindsight or the I just want to say the knowledge to make us come up with the money that we needed to. Looking back, we could have definitely came up with it. But it is what it is. We lost it. We thought it was gone. It came back on the market. We got it bought, but we paid 3 times the price for it. So there's been some improvements done. I will say that there's value added from the previous buyer. But we could have done that value also and saved 3 times the price, or at least a lot of the money in it. So
there's a guy that I don't know. I a local person here, and I was talking about land, and he's bought a bunch of land over the years, and I don't even know how it got brought up. And he's like, "Yeah, if you don't buy it the first time, I guarantee it's going to be a lot more expensive the second time." And I was like, that's a really good way to look at it. So, just crazy that I don't know. I feel like there's always this sticking point of like, well, is it really worth that? Or all these different things, and it's like I feel it's very easy to get tunnel vision and feel like you have to get it for the exact penny that you have in your brain. But it's like, man, as time goes on, you just feel better about the decision.
And I don't think I don't really pay attention to like Illinois and stuff like that, but just Southeast Ohio is what I know. And I don't know of anywhere that's more true than down there. Cause like growing up, it was nothing. You could buy land for $500 an acre down there. And that wasn't that long ago. I mean, we're talking 2010-ish. And so when my dad retired, he goes, "Oh man, we'll buy 100 acres and we'll have a big farm and this and that." And, as time marches on, it's like, well, now that 100 acre becomes 75 acres, now it becomes 50 acres. And now this farm that we just bought is 30 acres, but it's got a house on it, a little camp. But it's like, the land down there has just skyrocketed. And honestly, I don't know where the table or where the ceiling is on where it's going to end up. I just know that the sooner you get into it down there, the better off you're going to be, equity wise and just purchase power. So
Buck Land Funding. If you don't know who they are and you're looking to buy a piece of ground, I encourage you to reach out to them. They're chartered in multiple states across the Midwest, and they understand recreational land. I've said it a million times here on the podcast. The most important piece of buying your first piece of ground is finding a partner, finding a bank that understands what you're trying to do, that has competitive rates and understands the world of recreational land, because not all banks are created equal, and Buck Land Funding understands our crazy goals of scooping up a piece of ground to enjoy it with family, to hunt it, to use it as an investment. They understand that and work with that every single day. I encourage you to reach out to them. If you're in the process of buying your first or 20th farm, reach out to Buck Land Funding at bucklandfunding.com. Back to the conversation.
What do you think? Where are most of those buyers coming from in Southeast Ohio? I've been in Southeast Ohio just a couple times. I'm not an expert in that region whatsoever, but it's pretty darn rural. Like you're right, it's big hills. Are most of the people, are they coming from like Columbus, Cleveland, or just as many of them coming from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, New York, Maine, that South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia?
Yep.
I'm just thinking
all the above. all the above is what I can tell you. And that's kind of, that's why I think the small parcel aspect, and it kind of goes back to what you said about deer hunters is, me and you as diehard deer hunters, we get so stuck in, well, we have to have 100 acres. We have to have 200 acres. We're not gonna be able to kill a big buck. But a guy coming from Columbus who lives in an apartment, man, that 12 acres to him is, I can take my kids out there. I can let them run free. I can let them smell things, hear things, see things that you're never going to see inside Columbus. So Columbus, Cleveland, all the greater cities of Ohio, obviously, but then definitely the out-of-state pressure. I have mixed feelings on it. It is what it is. I don't blame anybody for coming here to hunt here. Does it make it tough for the residents? Yeah, absolutely. But it makes it just as tough for them to come and find leases and find ground and stuff like that. But yeah, I would say any surrounding state that touches us, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, Michigan, that's where a lot of them are coming from. And then a lot of the people from Columbus, Cleveland, Columbus too, specifically, just because it's a straight shot down Route 71 or Route 33. And within 2 hours, you're pretty much, even within an hour, really, an hour to 2 hours, you're in, big open country, with pretty affordable land versus, obviously the suburbs of Columbus are, really outrageous and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty fascinating. If you could, these questions are always fun to ask, but if you could change one thing about the Ohio regulations as a resident, is there something that you talk to your buddies like, man, if we could just get the state to do this, it would be
Yeah.
awesome.
I think, people have gotten on this like no baiting in Ohio thing. And I've listened to Don Higgins a lot. I've listened to your stuff a lot. And I never thought I'd be in that no bait program, but honestly, and especially with kids now, because I have, both my boys hunt. My middle son just goes first deer yesterday.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. But I think I would get on board with the no baiting thing. I really like doing the habitat stuff. I like getting my kids out there doing the habitat stuff. And I think if we did that, I think it would open up the state to a whole lot more enjoyment of just seeing deer do deer things. And I'm guilty of looking at feeders and corn piles. I've done it all, and with kids, honestly, it helps a lot. But I think the no bait thing I could get behind. I do think we're going to have to do something. I know they just raised our out of state license significantly. I don't want to see to go to a point system. Like I know a lot of people are complaining about Iowa's point system and stuff like that. I don't really know what the solution would be for out of state, but I think if we just, the no bait thing, I think I could get behind. I think it would save a lot of deer, a lot of young bucks. And I think it would just make deer travel more and do more deer stuff instead of just, coming to the nearest corn pile or apple pile or feeder or anything like that.
Yeah. What was kind of the, I know it sounds cheesy, but like, what was it like emotionally to buy back the deer camp after you thought it was gone? This is this is where all my memories were, kid and all the fun, and you probably thought that was long gone forever, and then to be able to buy it back, and then now your kids can go and kind of experience the nostalgia and tradition that you had experienced. Like, what was that like?
It was. I guess it's a two-part question. So the year that we lost it was the first year my son was going down to deer camp with us. And so when we lost it, and we didn't even know that it was for sale, we didn't even know we lost it until a neighbor called and told us that it was for sale. And so when we lost it, I cried like a baby. I'll be the first to admit it. I'm 20, what was I, 25 at the time, 26. And I cried like a baby. And it came on. So it was on the market a couple different times, and we could just, it was overpriced, out of our budget at the time. I won't say overpriced, it was out of our budget. And it was go off the market, come back on the market, go off the market, come back on. And then finally, this last time that it came back on, my dad was getting ready to retire. He was getting the money out that he wanted to buy a property. I had the money available from this home equity line, and it came back on the market. I'm like, well, Dad, this is the third time it's on the market. We both have the money available. Like, I think this is telling us something. Oh, excuse me. So we went down there about 2 weeks ago, after we closed on to get it ready for our gun season coming up. And just driving down that road, turning onto into that road that it's on, I showed both my boys where I killed my first deer. It was insane, to be honest with you. And I don't think it's really taken effect yet. And we go down there, we leave on Sunday to go down there. And I think that's going to be like when it all sets in, like, hey man, we're going to deer camp again here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ours. It's an insane, crazy journey. But man, I just, through the grace of God, it came available and we could get it bought again. Cause, I don't know of any other way that it would have happened, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No, that's pretty special to have that come back together when you think it's all said and done. Then how much did you guys have to try to grapple with, paying, substantially more than what you could have bought it for 6 years ago? Like, was that something that was like, oh man, like they're making a fortune off this and we're paying retail?
Yeah.
Did you have to battle that at all?
I think me knowing the market down there, I think we got it for a really good price. I don't think we stole it from her by any means. I think she got good value out of it, the seller. My dad had a hard time with it because my dad's been down there for 45 years.
Free.
Yeah, he goes, we could have bought this for XYZ, land was only 500 acres down. I'm like, yeah, Dad, that was 40 years ago. So I think he had a harder time with it. But at the end of the day, I think we got it for a good price. There was an old, like the house that we stayed in when we went down there was like no human should be living in it. But for deer camp, it was what deer camp was. So now she put like a little cabin on it. It's got city water on it. It's got good electric and good heat and stuff like that. So she definitely did improvements to it, which I think helped ease the burden of the price a little bit more. Yeah. And it's something where like the house that was on there before, I wouldn't think of taking my wife to, but this one that's there now, my mom would feel comfortable going down there. She actually has gone down there. My wife would feel comfortable going down there. So it's more of a family camp than just like the deer camp that it was type deal.
Yeah, it's multi-purpose. So you guys can go down in the summer or spring and
yeah, exactly.
Go down.
Yep. And we have leases down there. So the problem is after we lost that, we had our leases down there, but we were always having to pay Airbnb to go down there anytime. That adds up. Trying to availability adds up. So even though it's not a lot of acreage, it's only 30 acres. We have the leases down there, but just having that camp to stay in, just makes it easier to just go down there, open the door, and we're good to go do whatever we want, at the other areas around there.
Yeah. So you guys bought the deer camp, and then now you're closing on this other piece here pretty soon. Do you think that'll be a quicker hold as well, or do you think that might be like a 1-year hold, or hard to say?
It's going to be hard to say. We're going to get timbered pretty quick. I'm gonna get the food plot area cleaned up. I would say we're going to hold on to it at least until the summertime. Let the canopy kind of recover some. Give me some time to get the food plot and stuff in, and then we'll probably put it back on the market if it sells quick. Obviously, we're going to sell it, but if it doesn't, I'm going to use the timber money basically from it to make the payments on it. So it's not like it's really costing me money. We're going to be paying interest on it, the interest on the loan, but it's not going to be like we're paying money out of our own pockets on it, if that makes any sense. So we'll see kind of what happens. I'm hoping to sell it rather quickly. But if we don't, then I'm okay with, I'll either hold on to it. I look at leasing it, looking at doing something, you know what I mean? It's probably not something I'm going to hunt, just because it's kind of out of the way from our other stuff that we have down there, but I'd lease it or do something with it.
Yeah. What, do you have any advice for someone that's a young guy that, has a family and trying to figure out how to scratch up some more coin to potentially buy their first piece, whether it's 8 acres or 20 acres that would maybe provide some value to them? Jumps out to you?
I think just like we talked about earlier, don't get so set on that big 20, 30, 40, 100 acre chunk. For most guys our age, I'm assuming I'm about the same age as you, Jake. Mm-hmm. Those are going to be very hard to achieve, especially, in your 30s when you're starting families, late 20s, 30s, when you're starting families, having kids. That's going to be really tough. But if you can find a way, through a home equity line, through selling off some toys that we buy when we're in our 20s that we don't really need. If you can find a way to get that money for the down payment and swing the payment on a small piece, 5, 8, 10 acres, there's money to be made or there's value to be had there. And even if you just want to use that 8 acres for yourself, you can kill deer. You can enjoy those 5 to 8 acres, just as, I won't say just as much as a big piece, but until you're ready to move up in those pieces, you can definitely enjoy them. They're not to go to waste is, I guess, the easiest way of putting it.
Yeah. Out of your side hustles, which one's your favorite?
The fishing charters is very weather dependent, so that one's tough. But everybody says don't buy a boat, so that helps me pay for my boat.
Fair enough.
I like teaching at the fire academy. Since my boys have gotten into hunting, and then since I started teaching at the fire academy, like my son shot that doe on Saturday, and my heart was beating faster than any deer I've shot in my life. So like and I'm 34, like I said, but seeing the kids get into it, whether it's, at the fire station, putting out their first fire or killing their first deer. So I would say probably teaching at the fire academy, but man, taking kids out hunting, watching, guys do things for their first time is, it's way better than me shooting a deer. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, why do you think that is? Is it because you get to kind of relive that moment for yourself and then obviously be there for because obviously everyone's first deer is ingrained in their brain. Everyone.
Yeah.
So like part of that memory, and like, what is that for you?
I think going back to your first question on why it's so exciting is because I think, and I've had a hard time struggling with this, and I've talked to a couple other guys about it, is like deer hunt has gotten to be such this niche of like, I need to target a specific buck. I got to have history with him. You got to check so many boxes. And it's like a kid, only box he's trying to check is I filled my tag.
Yeah.
And it's like, so he shot that doe, I guess it was Saturday, I'm sorry. But Sunday, we've had this little buck coming in. He's a little 6-point. And he didn't come in yesterday, but I've never been more happy or more anticipated to go hunt this little 6-point basket rack than this. I got a really big deer that I'm chasing that he hasn't showed up since Halloween. But yeah, it's like you get so much more out of just going to the woods to hunt, and I've been guilty of that this year. Cell cameras have played a big part into it. You're always hunting your cameras information and stuff like that. So I think, getting back to it is just kids don't know any of that. They just know I'm going to the woods. If a button buck comes in, if a doe comes in, everybody's got their different management things, but they're not hunting for a Pope and Young, a Boone and Crockett, a deer that got 5 years history. But they're hunting for that deer that comes in, gives them a good broadside shot that they can hunt ethically. And as a dad, I remember hunting like that. And sometimes we let the horns and inches and stuff get in our way of that.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to say it. So, anything else here that you can think of that you want to share?
No, I mean, man, I appreciate you guys. There's a ton of content out there that really helps people a lot. The only other thing that I would add is if you ever need a sounding board, like I called you, Jake, on that one property, because it's like, I think my eyes are reading this right. So I would always be that sounding board for anybody. There again, I don't have a lot of experience in the game, but if anybody ever needed me, I'd be more than happy to help out, reach out, get in as soon as you can, and just enjoy the property for everything that it's worth. Don't get stuck on, everybody loves deer hunting, but just don't get stuck on the racks and the inches and the EHD. And because I think we're getting to a point where we're just so tunnel visioned. We're not seeing, not to go on a long one story, but yesterday was the perfect mention that we didn't see a deer yesterday. We saw a little button buck, but the sunset was just absolutely fantastic, and it's like, that's what owning land can do for you. We were sitting on a permission piece yesterday, but it's like people from Columbus, from Cleveland, they're not seeing that sunset, so chase those little things if that makes any sense. And, that's what having land can do for you, whether it be 5 acres or 500 acres.
I love it. If someone wants to commercial fish with you, what's the best way for them?
Yeah. So my business is Dragon Hook Sport Fishing. We fish in Lake Erie near Cleveland. My phone number is 440-522-5940. And if anybody mentions they heard me from the Land Podcast, I'll make sure I hook them up or give them a good deal or something. But,
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Or if you ever want to come fishing, Jake.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. Well, Josh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good luck. I think this will go live the day of opening day for Ohio. So I hope you have an awesome
Monday opens up. Yeah.
So we will see you and appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.